Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks radio station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. The program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru is in the house as always. Guru, thank you for all the hard work that you do. Andre, my engineer, as well. Let's go right to it. US and NATO commanders to target Russia, bring back U-2 spy planes. US General Philip Breedlove, the outgoing Supreme Allied Commander for NATO, is calling for the US to bring back U-2 spy planes to Europe to conduct increased surveillance of the Russian military, insisting NATO, terrorist organization NATO, needs more intelligence collection against them. High-flying U-2 planes were a major component of U.S. surveillance of Soviet territory through much of the Cold War. However, in recent years, the U-2 has largely been supplanted by the use of satellites for reconnaissance, and the planes have been scheduled for retirement for a decade now. General Breedlove, who has been pushing for an ever-increasing U.S. military presence in Europe to target Russia, argued that Russia poses a long-term existential threat to the United States and that more surveillance of the nation is needed. Experts indicate that even if the U-2s are sent to Europe, they almost certainly will not overfly Russian territory, but will instead climb to a high operating altitude within NATO airspace and surveil Russian border areas. So there you go, NATO terrorist organization starting provocations once again. Guru, quick statement by Dmitry Peskov. There are no Russian troops in the Moscow-leaning Donbass region of eastern Ukraine, and there have never been, but there are, very important, there are Russian citizens who stand by the local residents. RIA news agency quoted the Kremlin as saying on Saturday. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov was referring to the repeated accusations to Moscow by Kiev Junta and the West of its direct military involvement in the conflict between the Ukrainian fascist security forces and the pro-Russian separatists in the region. Thousands march in Serbia against NATO as nation prepares for April 24th's decision on EU or Mother Russia. Thousands have marched against NATO and the West in Serbia, carrying banners praising Russian President Vladimir Putin. The march Sunday marked the 17th anniversary of NATO's bombing of Serbia and Kosovo. The crowds affiliated with the radical parties had carried pro-Russian banners and shouted against Serbia joining the EU or the Western military alliance. Current Serbian leaders, once staunchly anti-Western, have said they want to join the EU, but to remain militarily neutral. Pro-Russian forces in Serbia have been gaining ground ahead of the April 24th general election that could decide which way Serbia is heading, toward Russia or the EU. Serbia has traditional ties with its Slavic ally Russia, which has stepped up a propaganda campaign ahead of the vote. Thousands of people have staged a demonstration in Serbia for voice their opposition in the government's attempt to gain Serbian membership in the European Union and NATO. People carried banners that praised Russian President Vladimir Putin while shouting slogans against the government's decision to join EU and NATO. Last December, Serbian authorities took a step toward joining the EU. They, however, said that they would want the country to remain military neutral. People will go to the polling stations on April 24 to decide about whether the country will swing towards EU or Russia. Serbia's pro-Russian parties have asked for a referendum to be held together with the general election over Belgrade's potential membership of terrorist organization NATO. The pro-Russia politicians believe that if populists remain in office after elections, they will go ahead with NATO membership and will also join the West sanctions against Moscow over Ukraine. The sanctions were imposed in 2014 against senior Russian officials, pro-Russian figures in Ukraine, and some Russian companies and banks. They came after Crimea declared independence from Ukraine on March 17, 2014, and formally applied to become part of Russia following a referendum a day earlier. The United States and European allies accused Moscow of destabilizing Ukraine. Moscow, however, rejects having a hand in the crisis gripping the Eastern European state. Andre, 51st Aid Convoy from Mother Russia. Russia's emergency ministry will send a 51st humanitarian aid convoy to the troubled Donbass region. Minister Vladimir Puchkov said Saturday, "Currently we are preparing the convoy, particularly at the territory of the Lugansk Rescue Center," Puchkov said. According to Puchkov, Russia will continue to deliver humanitarian cargoes to Donbass. The official added that the situation in the region is getting better as infrastructure is being improved and economic entities are being restored, which is a challenging mission through it is being implemented. Since August 2014, Russia has delivered 50 convoys convoys containing more than 60,000 tons of humanitarian cargoes to Donbass region. Also, as Vladimir Peskov said earlier on Saturday, we've assisted in improving the social infrastructure. We took care of hospitals, medical offices, power engineering facilities. The infrastructure was restored to the minimum necessary extent in a short period of time. Thank you, Mother Russia. Let me bring in my lovely co-host Natalia. News from Novorossia and around the world.
Humanitarian aid for Novorossia from Switzerland. On 24th March of 2016, Donetsk received humanitarian aid from Switzerland, in completion of which took part also Poland and Italy. Journalists of Novorossia today were at the place of unloading and talked to the head of the charity fund of Novorossia with Donbass in the heart. Nina Limarenko pointed out that humanitarian aid includes essentials, invalid carriages, baby cots, warm clothes, many toys. However, it happened that we waited the load for the new year, but there were problems with logistics, and the aid was delivered to Poland, and today we received it in the DPR. It is addressed aid and for disabled people and for citizens of Yasenovata that were shelled for a long time, Lina Limarenko pointed out. Nina added that humanitarian loads from Switzerland include only important things for Donbass civilians. Nina expressed words of gratitude to European funds, among them Polish fund Solidarity, that took part in gathering of the load, helped to return the aid back from Poland. On 24th March, journalists of Novorossia Today and American guest journalists Santiago Garcia Munoz and Olga Schechter and the head of the Kuybышevsky district Ivan Prihodko visited places that were totally crushed by Ukrainian fighters. Ivan Prihodko told how Ukrainian punitives carried out constant shelling of the Donetsk airport and Putilovsky bridge since 13th January to 18th January 2015, and the DPR's militia faced difficult choice. It was very difficult to deter the attacks, and soldiers of the DPR had only one chance not to let Ukrainian forces to penetrate into the DPR's capital. They were to explode the bridge. However, more than 1 year passed. Staying at the bridge, you feel which cost was paid to prevent the penetration of Kiev fighters into Donetsk, desirable for them. Shells, fragments, buried tanks are everywhere. You feel how the blood, both of defenders and enemies, splits there. You feel the horror of people who lives close to the place came down in history, where was bloody battle for homeland, motherland. On 18th March 2015, Ukrainian subdivisions brought their weaponry, tanks, howitzers to Putilovsky bridge. There was a big amount of trucks with fighters nationalists. The militia of the DPR was to explode the bridge to prevent their penetration into Donetsk. Ukrainian side subjected to shelling the entire northern suburb of Donetsk. Airport villages as Oktябрьский, Veselaya, Spartak were directly targeted by the Ukrainian armed forces. Even civil workers as staff of the emergency ministry helped us to pull down burning houses, Prihodko pointed out. Having reached by cars the airport, no one even understood that it was that famous air harbor of Donetsk in which was invested so much money and for which such cruel battles were. In this airport that was in the center of attention not only of mass media resources of Novorossia and hostile Kiev, but of Europe and the entire world. Today the DPR militia keeps on defending the territory of former airport, and Ukrainian fighters open fire regularly from their positions. It is possible to say that it is a horrible place. Such amount of soldiers from both sides perished at least nowhere despite this place in Donbass. There are only ruins there and the nature died. There is no live tree. People of Novorossia believe that will have a new, not worse airport, and the other entire infrastructure will be restored. Nevertheless, events happened here after Kiev sent its troops to destroy that was built for many years in Donbass, and civilians with it will be in our memory, and it has been already come down in history.
Guru Andre, this is interesting news, fascinating news. It's the third time I've seen this coming out of the State Department and the Disease Control Center from Washington. Plan 888, Defense Department response to a zombie apocalypse. The Defense Department, known of having a plan in place for any disaster scenario, has created a detailed strategy for a possible zombie apocalypse. Gordon Lubold reports for Foreign Policy. The strategy, known as Conplan 888, is an unclassified document that lays out how the military would best respond to a potential zombie apocalypse. The plan's overall purpose is for the military to undertake operations to preserve non-zombie humans from the threats posed by a zombie horde. Conplan 8888 follows a three-step approach to ensuring three goals by 1. Maintaining a defensive perimeter to protect human life, 2. Conducting operations that will eradicate zombie threats, and 3. Aiding civilian authorities in restoring law and order. Of course, the Pentagon does not actually believe in the likelihood of a zombie apocalypse. Instead, the plan was developed by military trainers who realized that a zombie survival scenario could be a useful and effective training tool. A disclaimer at the beginning of Conplan 8888 states that because the plan was so ridiculous, our students not only enjoyed the lessons, they actually were able to explore the basic concepts of plan and order development very effectively. A military training plan based on fictional scenario also does not carry the risk of political fallout. A training plan marked Nigeria, for instance, could cause a political firestorm if leaked, while a program for the zombie apocalypse could not be misconstrued as real. Currently, Conplan 8888 includes defense against full zombie spectrum ranging from zombie chickens to pathological zombies in a variety of populated and non-populated areas. If there was an actual zombie apocalypse in the US, we would be safe, we think. ISIS suicide attack at soccer game, 30 killed, including mayor in Iraq. A midday attack in the Iraqi village of Iskandariya marred a high-profile soccer match between local teams, with an ISIS suicide bomber detonating in the crowd as the game ended, killing at least 30 people, including the village mayor. Iskandariya, also known as Alexandria, is a Shiite-dominated village and is on the main highway linking the capital city of Baghdad to the religiously significant city of Karbala. The attack is just the latest in a long series of ISIS strikes against Shiite targets around Baghdad. ISIS was quick to take credit for the attack and claimed a much larger death toll, saying they killed at least 60 in the attack and wounded a large number of others. Medical officials, however, confirmed only 30 people were killed in the attack, saying many others are badly wounded and that the toll is expected to rise. War as more U.S. troops headed to Iraq. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Joe Dunford told reporters today that the U.S. will be sending a significant number of new combat troops to Iraq in the weeks to come, saying a series of recommendations have been drawn up and it's just a question of exactly which is approved. This will mark the latest in a series of U.S. escalations in Iraq, which have put the U.S. far above the 3,870 soldier limit they negotiated with Iraq. Pentagon officials concede the number of troops in Iraq is closer to 5,000 now, though the exact figure is not being disclosed. Pentagon officials insist that they don't count temporary troops in their official numbers, which often means the figures they report publicly are underreported by as many as 1,000 troops at any given time. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has been under growing pressure from important Shiite figures to keep the U.S. role limited. Yet the Pentagon seems to be in a never-ending scramble to add more troops, sometimes only a few dozen at a time, sometimes a few hundred. Sending relatively small numbers each time has kept the individual deployments sparsely covered in the U.S. press, and this avoids significant debate over the transition from a no boots on the ground war toward one in which thousands of U.S. troops are at or near the front lines. Guru, great news. Obama ISIS crushed. The Syrian government troops and people's militia fighters have fully liberated the ancient town of Palmyra, located 215 kilometers from Damascus, the Syrian army's command said in a statement on Sunday. Our troops have established full control of the town and are chasing the remainder of the retreating gangs of Islamic State terrorists. Syrian army units in cooperation with local militias advancing further into the vicinity of ancient city of Palmyra. UNESCO welcomes Palmyra's liberation from ISIS militants. The Syrian troops liquidated on Saturday the terrorist stronghold in Al-Amiria, the northern eastern district of Palmyra. The militants were pushed back from the barracks in the districts of Al-Mutakayidin and Jamiat. The Syrian government troops also captured the local dominating height to control the road to the north of the towns of Deir ez-Zor and Raqqa on the Euphrates. Viva Assad, Viva Syria. Viva DPRK, Viva North Korea. 2 North Korean military units are fighting on behalf of President Bashar al-Assad in Syria conflict. Assad al-Zubi, the head of the Syrian Opposition High Negotiations Committee delegation, told Russian news agency TASS that North Koreans have committed troops to the civil war. According to al-Zubi, 2 units are called Chalma 1 and Chalma 2. The Syrian delegate provided the information as he attended Syria peace talks at the United Nations European headquarters in Geneva. Al-Zubi added there are fighters from Iran, Afghanistan fighting on behalf of Assad. Russia's Sputnik International also confirmed the Syrian representative's statement on North Korean soldiers in the Middle East and quoted Al-Zubi as saying North Korean troops are fatally dangerous during an explanation of the presence of foreign troops in the Syrian civil war. The civil war has continued for 5 years and the opposition and the Assad government are at odds regarding the details of a peace negotiation, but Pyongyang maintains friendly ties with the government in Damascus and Russia has supported Assad's rule. North Korea's presence in the Middle East conflict is unprecedented, but the 2 countries have cultivated military ties for many years. North Korea has been a staunch ally of the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad, opposed by the Islamic State, and Pyongyang helped Syria build a nuclear facility destroyed by the Israeli air raid in 2007. Last September, Syria dedicated a park to the former North Korean leader Kim Il-sung. Viva DPRK, Viva, Viva North Korea. A UN War Crimes Tribunal has become an instrument of revenge and a place to settle old scores, the Russian Foreign Ministry said in a statement criticizing the court's decision to sentence Radovan Karadzic to 40 years in prison on genocide charges. The Russian Foreign Ministry asserted that the verdict, which is one of the harshest ever meted out by the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, appears to be very one-sided as it attributes to sole responsibility for the Yugoslav civil war to the Serbs. The ICTY has acquitted numerous other participants of the Yugoslav civil war in the past, including Croatian Ustashi Nazi General Ante Gotovina, Kosovo Albanian terrorist Ramush Haradinja, and Bosnian Field Commander Nasser Orish. According to the statement, the civil war in the former Yugoslavia in the 90s and NATO bombardments are a tragic chapter in world history. The Russian Foreign Ministry said, "It is hard to imagine that only one side committed all the crimes in that war." The ICTY, however, continues building a myth of the Serbs' sole responsibility for those events. This kind of approach has undermined inter-ethnic reconciliation in the Balkans, the Foreign Ministry stressed. Moscow also noticed the date, March 24, to which the ICTY chose for announcing its verdict on Karadzic. On March 24, 1999, NATO's coalition forces started a 78-day bombing campaign against the former Yugoslavia, another crime which the ICTY has refused to investigate. The civil war in former Yugoslavia in the 90s and NATO bombardments are a tragic chapter in world history, the Russian Foreign Ministry said in its release. Hey everybody, as I stress always, be alert, stay safe, and see you all on Wednesday. Bye-bye, folks.